Yo, get in, chop.
I'm a bit self-aware, sometimes it's fucked up, but life is gonna lie, so I ain't gonna slow up. I'm on a mission to change the face of mental health, kicking knowledge to my people, cause you know that health is wealth. It's your lucky day, cause you tuned into the greatest. Out here striving to survive, sometimes we fake it till we make it. If your mental health is slipping, then please don't touch that dial, go and grab a cup of tea.
Yo, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Treaty LPC, and thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Self-Aware After podcast. I have a very special guest with me today. I cannot wait for you guys to hear about her story. Her name is Lacey Desper, and she is a jack of all trades, and she says she's a master of some, and I can't wait to hear a little bit more about what she does, her career development, as well as her work in social services. And I just learned this right before we hit the record button. She also has been working on filmmaking and wrote a script that I'm really, really excited to hear a little bit about as well. So without further ado, please welcome to the Self-Aware After podcast, Lacey Desper. Hey, Lacey, how's it going?
I'm doing great. It's a different environment. I've done a few podcasts before, but they were all small, and I didn't expect more than like 3 or 4 people to be watching it.
Okay.
So this is definitely a new experience, and I'm really excited.
Great. I'm really happy to have you here. I know, you've gone through a lot in life and you've experienced a lot of things. Can we just dive in a little bit and just tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
All right. I'm going to try not to go too deep because, like I was telling you before, we could probably do a whole series on my childhood. So, I went into foster care when I was really young, about first grade, 5th grade. I was adopted into a family, and things were great for a while. But the foster care system kept passing them kids, and the more kids that they got, the more complicated life got. By the time I graduated high school, they'd adopted 10 kids on top of the 3 that they had. Wow. And it was a weird environment to navigate because almost everybody else that they adopted were siblings. And so I was the only one in the group that was not a sibling. And so I was playing on my own team while everybody else had a teammate, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some point in time, my dad had a near-death experience, and he went to the deep end of religious extremism, to the very far end. Like, gay people have demons attached to them, and you can't be friends with them because those demons will attach to your soul, like that far into the deep end of it. And so I navigated life for a while by myself after high school because there was just, I tried to maintain the relationship for as long as it was possible. But I ended up cutting it off on my daughter's 3rd birthday when they no called, no showed. That's about the time that I said, well, that's enough with that. You are not going to traumatize her the way you did me. And all I did was not call. I didn't move. I had the same phone number. They knew where I lived, and I just didn't call anymore. And I've not heard from them since. My dad's liked a few posts on Facebook.
Okay.
So that's a quick synopsis of the childhood. And then my working life as I've gone to an adult has been just moving from place to place because it's been hard to find a place. I socially isolated in high school because I wasn't allowed to have friends, essentially. And so I had a lot of problem in the workplace with coworkers. In fact, I've always been great at my job, and my stuff's always been that I need work interacting with coworkers.
Okay.
I had a really good boss when I ended up getting a job at Quest Diagnostics, who she actually had a background in mental health services. And during my one-on-ones weekly, she said, we aren't even going to talk about work. Your work's perfect. We don't need to discuss that. Everything's good there. Me and you are going to work on your inter-office relationships and friends. And I'm going to give you tasks each week and things to do with people. And she gave me this task with this guy that was more socially awkward than me to figure out how to integrate him into the group. And that did a lot for my development. But then at Quest Diagnostics, my husband ended up landing a job out in Wichita, Kansas that paid more than both me and him made combined. And So there really wasn't a choice but to leave that job. In Wichita I've probably gone way off the rails here, haven't I? I've gone, I'm summarizing everything you asked me to summarize me, and I've just gone.
Gotcha. No, you've gone through a lot. And I think you were just kind of telling me a little bit about the career piece of things, because you're dealing with a lot of challenges with that. Can you tell a little bit more about kind of, how you found your path career-wise? I
haven't. I mean, I had found it. The IRS, my last job that I just had, that was my home. That was going to be my job for the rest of my life. I found my place. I found an environment in which my know-it-allism and my was actually embraced, and they took advantage of it rather than feeling threatened by how quickly I picked up a subject matter. In fact, I was recruited by this wonderful woman. Her name was Pamela Quason. She plucked me out of a conference when I was doing a presentation on volunteer recruitments, and basically just said, "You're going to come work here now."
Wow. Yeah.
But I got affected pretty hard by DOGE when they revoked all remote work. And for my job, it was ridiculous because we're a regional job. And so I needed to go to VITA sites and tax preparation sites that were in the region that I go in for site reviews and to help them out and things like that. And when I went to the office, there's nobody there because there was one in Charleston, there was one in Knoxville, there's one in Richmond, there's one in Nashville. None of my coworkers were local, so I was going into an office that was 2.5 hours away to sit by myself and still sit on Zoom.
Okay, sounds familiar.
Oh yeah, but it was chaos. There was 6 months of absolute torture is what it was, because nobody knew what was going on from the next day to the next. The threats of the rifts, and I'd only been there for a year and a half, and my supervisor was telling me I was guaranteed to be riffed and there was no option for it, and that I had to take the deferred resignation. And we were thinking about buying a second house, and I would just live in Charleston 4 days a week until they could get it fixed. But then they got rid of all alternate work schedules, and everybody had to be in the office 5 days a week. And then that would be me leaving the house at 4 a.m. on Monday and not getting home till 9 p.m. on Friday with a 16-year-old daughter at home. And
yes, that's a lot.
My husband was not capable of handling it. He was melting down fast. He had a meltdown at a doctor's office that ended up in my daughter getting kicked out of the physician's office. That's how bad it was affecting him, me not being home every day. And so I had to quit a $91,000 a year job. Because it was either, my family or the job, essentially. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you ended up taking a deferred resignation from that position?
Yes.
Okay.
And the job hunt since then has been impossible. I mean, I'm 4,200 applications in, and I've got a bachelor's degree in human services, and I've not been able to land or find anything. So I'm door dashing, which has been good. There's a positive in it. I've been losing a lot of weight, getting a lot of exercise. I've lost about 100 pounds in the last 10 months. So, I mean, got to get the silver linings in there somewhere.
Yeah. I'm here for the silver linings. Yeah. The last year was crazy working in federal government. I worked for a federal agency as well. And there was a lot that we had returned to office, and it was a crazy year last year for sure. So I don't know. I wish I had got that deferred resignation. But, obviously when you're doing it not by choice, it doesn't feel quite the same. Well,
they deemed my group essential. So I only actually got 3.5 weeks of the deferred resignation. So, yeah. So that was fun. So,
yeah, not pleasant at all. Yeah.
But I guess here's the best example I can give you on how being self-aware and I don't want to say knowing more than other people because that sounds conceited, but I took a job out in Wichita at the City of Water for the department when we first moved out there. And while we were in training, the lady that was in training was so excited they had this new system that they were deploying, but it was just a basic SQL software system. And we're in training and she can't find a menu path. And I say, well, you just got to go down this file, this to the left, and it's right here. And she goes, well, how do you know that? This is a proprietary system we had handmade. And I said, well, it's a software system company. It's the same software for anybody that buys it. It's just they customize the menu paths for you. I'm telling you, the query that you need is down this path. And she got mad. Like, she was personally threatened by the fact that I knew the system that she was supposed to be the pioneer in training everybody in better than she did. And I was like, I'm sorry. I was just trying to help, and that gets me in a lot of trouble, actually, trying to help people with like their workflow and other stuff like that. When I just move 20 times the speed that anybody else does. Like at the IRS, my coworkers were putting in 40 hours a week and claiming it wasn't enough work. And I was maybe working 12 hours a week and doing their entire workload. And I don't know. I just don't move at the speed that other people do. And it's led to a lot of problems. Like at Quest, at one point, I was doing national clinical, and they had me doing backup for the workforce manager. So I was doing 3 jobs because they knew I had the capacity to do 3 jobs.
Yeah. I don't know if I would be willing to do 3 jobs for the price of 1, but I'm here for that. If you like it, I loved it.
But that's where I get myself into trouble, though, is, I am a people pleaser, and, I'm trying to move up. And so it's a yes, I'm say yes and say yes to the point that I've said yes, that I've burned myself into the ground. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, and I've tried to fix that at the IRS by not stepping up for projects, but I continue to do it. Like, I joined a board of directors for a Funeral Consumers Alliance because this volunteer of mine from Vita, she's an absolutely wonderful lady, asked me to. And I said, okay, I'm just going to be a board seat. I'm just going to sit here because you need a placeholder till you find somebody who actually has real interest in this. And last month, I did the whole price survey and built Excel spreadsheets.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, like, I mean, obviously you will dive head first into things and just really, make them your own and expand them out. I'm curious about one thing that you said in terms of like the people pleasing. Where does that come from?
I think it comes from having 10 siblings, 13 siblings sitting in the same house and doing anything you can to be seen or acknowledged by your parents. And in my case, I could never figure out what to do because we were so different. Like, neither of my parents either graduated from high school. And intelligence was not something that they valued.
Okay.
I did debates in high school, and I dove head deep in it. I did it all 4 years. I went to state and a bunch of other things with it. And I remember one day I was at home and I was so excited about this new case that I built. It was on ADHD and on medications and stuff like that. And I'm talking to them about it. And my mom just turns around and she goes, "We get it. You're smarter than all of us. Can you just shut up now?" Wow. And I was literally just trying to talk to her about my day. And so where I got lucky is for other people, drugs and sex and stuff like that is their rebellion. It's how they rebelled against their parents. For me, intelligence was rebellion. And so the smarter that I got, the more they hated me and the more that they didn't want, to have that association. And so advanced classes and intelligence essentially was my rebellion. And so that's how I got lucky, because I could have gone down a lot darker path than I ended up going down.
Yeah. I know a lot of people that, like you said, when they go into foster care or adoption, if they're adopted, sometimes there's those differences and those disconnects, and it does kind of make them feel isolated. It sounds like you leaned into intelligence. Were there other things that kind of helped you navigate through being in this type of environment growing up where you got kind of shunned for being the smart kid in the house?
This is kind of cliche, but I read the Diary of Anne Frank in the 6th grade. And I just constantly kept telling myself, if this girl who was going through this was able to be so sunshiny and positive and still looking for love when literally the entire world had been taken from her and she had no clue if it was coming back. What right do I have to not be the same? Because I know that there's an end date. I know that there's an end date. You know, when I'm 18 and when I graduate high school, I can leave this. And I really pulled a lot of strength from that book. Like, inspiration comes from weird places, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I read it in the 8th grade, so now I'm wondering how old you are, because I'm like, they got y'all reading that in the 6th grade? That's wild. But it was definitely an inspiring book. I really, remember moments of it and watching, I think, like a play they made about her called Kinder Transport, where they talked about like a lot of the things that were happening. And so I love that you were able to find inspiration from that and allow yourself to become more resilient. I want to know a little bit more about your adulthood story. Like, once you did leave home and you started to kind of figure your life out on your own, what was that part of your experience like?
It was a rough few years. I went to Baker University. It was a private university in Kansas that was really hard to get into. And I got in on a specialty application. And it started there. I mean, my parents were mad at me for going to that college because it was a Methodist school, and they really could not care that I specifically went to that college because it was 12 minutes down the road from the house, and I would be able to come home and help and with the kids and stuff. But as soon as I moved out, it was like, I wasn't allowed to come home and do laundry. I wasn't, I was just me by myself, and I was just so unprepared for everything because I didn't know you had to buy books in college. I went my first semester in college without books.
Wow.
And there was a bad school counselor that let me get in on an art scholarship, a music scholarship, a forensic scholarship, an academic scholarship, all of which had requirements attached to it. And by my second semester, I burned out. At one point, I just got sick and was in my room for 2.5 weeks and didn't come out. And then came out to find out I'd been failed out of the college because they had a policy: if you miss more than 3 of a class, it's an automatic drop fail. And so I moved in with this guy I knew from high school, which very quickly became toxic because I guess he thought that we were in together, that we were going to be a couple. And I moved into this apartment, and the lease ended up not going through after I'd moved in, and I ended up homeless in my car for about a month. And once again, I called my parents and asked if I could come home, and they said, "Sorry, you work at Wendy's as a shift manager, and you don't get off work till 2 a.m. and it'd be really disruptive to family to have you coming in at 2 a.m." And I'm sitting here telling them that I'm living in my car, and it doesn't matter. It's going to disrupt the family order if I were to come home. And so that wasn't an option. And so I ended up living with this girl who, bless her soul, she's pulled it together. She's now a social worker. But at that time, she was a drug dealer, and she had a house, and there were people coming in, but it was the only place I had. Yeah. And was more than a few years there that were just lost years. I worked at Mr. Good Sense. I came home. Thankfully, I hate the taste of marijuana. It tastes so bad. And so I didn't fall into that pit of drugs.
No, hold on. I got to stop you right there. The taste? Are you talking?
Oh, yeah. It makes me vomit, man. I can't stand the taste.
Well, you're by yourself on that shit. Because
no, I use gummies now, but like at that point in my life where I was at, had I partaken in that, it wouldn't have been positive. I guess is what I mean. Is like there's good use and there's bad use, and it would have been bad use.
Gotcha, girl. Listen, I stayed away from drugs most of my life because of having parents that had addiction. So I get it, but it was a taste thing that threw me off. So you hated the taste of marijuana.
I did. I tried too. I tried the gravity bombs. I tried everything, and it was just immediate vomit. So, maybe it was, God protected me from it. I don't know, but
yeah.
But then I got engaged to this guy, which got me out of that apartment. But that crashed first when it turned into a domestic abuse situation. And I got lucky is I went to the apartment complex owner and I begged them. I said, I need help. I need out, and I need out now. I'm not going to deal with this. And I barely made enough money to make my rent. But she said, as long as you promise me you're going to pay your rent, I'll give you the lease, even though you don't have any credits and you don't make enough money. And so I got out. And not long from there, I met my husband. And I don't know where I would be if I had met him. We met, and 3 months later we were dating, and 3 months later we were married.
Wow, that was a quick engagement.
And we've been married for 17 years now. And it's that was probably one of my most self-aware moments. Is like I think he was the first person who ever fought for me. And like the biggest moment is he was not the type of guy I dated. He was angry. I mean, like at poker games and stuff we were at, he would get so mad so quick at all this other stuff. And he wasn't very clean. But there was one night we were at the bar playing poker, and a bunch of people were like, oh, so you're dating him now. So you're just bumping from guy to guy at the bar. And I got really mad because what do you mean telling people we're dating? We've gone on 2 dates. You're telling people that we're dating. And I just left and I went home. And next thing I know, he's knocking at my door, and my brother's at the door, and he's like, you want me to beat this dude up? He won't, and he wouldn't go. He was willing to take the beating and get beaten the crap out of by my biological brother, Nicholas, who I was living with at the time, just to come in and tell me that it wasn't him, it was Sean, and that he was sorry, and that's not what he meant to do. And I think it was the first moment in my life that I think anybody had fought for me.
Yeah.
And honestly, when things started getting serious and I knew that he was going to propose that quickly, I had to like talk myself down, like from running, like I always do, like from getting out of it before I screwed it up, getting out of it before it did. And I literally said, marry him. If you marry him, you're not going to leave him. If you marry him, you're not going to cheat on him. If you marry him, you're not going to do this. Just make the commitment. And, and I did. And it was one of the best things I ever did.
Wow. 17 years after dating for that's crazy. But it's, that just, I guess it speaks to where you were. And it sounds like he really knew what he wanted.
Yeah. So it's like one of the few blessings, because you know how hard it is on a daily basis to know what's wrong with you, to know that you talk too much, to know that you're a people pleaser, to know that you're socially awkward and it's hard making conversations, and to know you have to work on making eye contact with people and trying to make that eye contact with the person because you know that's what you're supposed to do, and going through all of these things, but at the same time knowing there's almost nothing you can do to fix it. And so you have the problem, but there really isn't a solution for the problem. And so it just compounds the problem upon itself and turns it into a cycle. And when you're as analytical as I am, like one of the worst, most pressure moments for me is when a boss says, hey, I need to have a meeting with you. And it's out of nowhere and I don't have a clue what it's for. Like I will spend the next week before that meeting going over everything that I've done for the last 2 weeks to find out what I'm in trouble for, what I did, what's going on, and going through every scenario possible to find out what I did wrong.
Yeah, been there. I get that. When you overthink and you overanalyze things, that happens a lot, and, that's just, I think sometimes just the root of anxiety kicking in.
Because it's been a problem. So like when I worked at the Department of Children and Families in Wichita, Kansas, I walked into one of the most hostile work environments I've ever been in my life. So the state of Kansas was really short on social workers, and there was big news for a while about kids that were sleeping in the office or some kids that got lost. And so the governor passed new legislation that allowed people without a social work license to be social workers. And if you had a degree in human services, they would allow you to get the job.
Mm.
And I was the first person in the state to be hired with just a human services degree and not a license in social work.
Mm.
And the people in the social work department did not agree with the legislation. And it felt like I was hired to prove that the legislation was wrong. Because like my first day of employment, they're going through health benefits and stuff like that. I tell them, we could sit here for the next 3 hours and go over this till we're blue in our face, but my husband knows a lot more than this, and I need to compare it with his policy at his work. And so, I'll just read through it at home with my husband, and we'll go through it, and I'll let you know, because I can sit here and I'll pick a plan, and then he'll tell me that it's wrong and it needs to be something else, because he just knows a lot more about this subject than I do.
Mm.
And 3 hours later, I'm in the office with my boss's boss, and my boss's boss. And they want to know whether I intend to keep this job, because they're very concerned because I have no interest in benefits. And they want to know if I actually want this job.
Okay, that's interesting.
I mean, that should have been my red flag to get out, like right there. But like while I was in training, we were doing a case with a group home. And the alleged was that one of the children in the group home left while they were at the park, managed to get some crack, did the crack, came back to the house. And so we were actually investigating the facility on whether or not they were properly doing the kids. And we interviewed all the kids, and all the kids had the same story, that after they got back from the park, the girl chugged like a gallon or two of water. And for me, my last job before this was Quest Diagnostics, and I'd worked in toxicology, and I had the certification that if I could go to court and testify on the validity of a drug screen. And so I'm at the meeting, we're talking to the facility, and I asked them, well, did they take an instant POCT cup, or did they do blood work for the drug tests? And they're like, well, I don't know. And then they're like, you don't need to ask that. That's not relevant. And I'm like, well, that is relevant, because everybody's saying she chugged water, and instant cups don't test for negative dilutes. So you're saying the test is negative, and that's why you're letting the facility off. But if they did an instant cup, you can't really claim that that's a negative, because they had no way to test if it was a dilute, and that it's just negative because there's so much water in the urine that the test can't test it. And I got in so much trouble just by asking that question, being told that I was told I was threatening the people at the facility, that I needed to not be charging them with doing stuff and claiming that they weren't doing stuff. And all I did was ask about some drug screen. So I mean, like, when I say I've got work trauma, I mean, I've got trauma. Like, even when I'm trying to do the best with the knowledge that I have, and when I'm asking questions on things that I have expertise in, I was getting punished for it. And so when I talk about the anxiety of being called into an office with a supervisor, I think a lot of it stems from that job.
Yeah. You've gone through a lot when it comes to jobs. And I know that, one of the things you kind of shared when you initially reached out was around, like, your honesty kind of impacting things like that in your life. And, sometimes people don't want someone coming in a role and doing more or knowing more than they know. And it can be, a lot of times people think, oh, well, you're trying to get my job because you're doing this or you're doing that. So it can be intimidating to people.
I don't know. It's just a skill I have. I pick up new topics quick. Like, I knew nothing about taxes before I took the director job at VITA. And in 3 months, I was advanced tax certified. And, with the IRS. And, I mean, I had some help with a few volunteers, but I don't know how I do it. I just do it. I just pick up new subject matters like that pretty quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm glad that you kind of are aware of what's going on with you in terms of, like, being in spaces. Because, like, a lot of people may not have that foresight to understand, like, this is why this is happening. I understand that my self-awareness and the things about me are the things that kind of land me in these places. Another thing that really stood out to me, I think I mentioned this before we started recording, was about, how your self-awareness has, I guess, triggered depression. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, depression for me, I think works a little different than it does with other people, because I've got that attachment disorder that I carry from my youth. Mm-hmm. And so I have a lot of problem with either I over concentrate on something or I just dismiss it and make it disappear. And, but like for me, depression comes in the form of over analyzing the situation. Am I not getting these jobs or these job applications not happening because I've now officially just gone through too many applications? Am I now just too old? Is it not going to happen? Do I not have the skills that I need? Do I need more skills? Do I just going through endless analytical loops of figuring out what I can do and what I can do better, and just like being up for 4 or 5 hours at night and just cycling through these things, and then going online and reading the internet and seeing all the videos of everybody else having the same problems getting jobs, and convincing myself that that's what the problem is rather than it being me. And there was a few years, I think, that I just gave up. Like when we were in Wichita, after I lost the job, it was the first time in my life I'd ever been fired. They ended up firing me from the social department services over the group home issue. Wow. And I just didn't do anything. And then it compounded on each other, because then, my husband's going to work and I have to get up and take my daughter to school. And then I come home and I just watch TV all day, but I didn't do any of the chores. I didn't clean the kitchen. I didn't do the dishes. I didn't do anything. And then my husband comes home from work and he starts to help me do it. And then I feel guilty because, he just worked all day and now he's home having to do this because I didn't do it when I stayed home and did nothing. And it just cycles. And as it builds up even further, and then you can't get out. And that's when I gained all the weight. And then that made it even worse, is that then I start hating myself for how I'm looking, and then questioning whether or not my husband even still loves me because of how much weight I've gained. And there were some dark years. And I honestly, I don't think I made it through without my daughter. I eventually had to pull things together for her, as, she started asking questions about work and stuff like that and other things like that. And I was like, I really have got to show her, I've got to do this. So we went back to school. Me and my husband did. We both, we got our associate's degrees together. It took us 5 years. We took 2 classes every semester, and we ended up graduating with our associate's degree together. And then we managed to, then I joined an accelerated bachelor's degree program and did the last 2 years in a year. Mm-hmm. And there was no depression that year because there was no time for it, between family and the 40 hours a week and the 2 classes every 6 weeks for a year and 3 months. That was just a year of moving and not stopping. And then once I graduated and we moved to Wichita and everything stopped and I had nothing, it's like 2 years of depression hit me all at once.
Yeah. Yeah. You've had quite a journey in your life, kind of from going into foster care and, having all of these challenges that you've continuously overcame. So I think that's a testament to your strength. So I want to switch gears a bit, and I want to know, how do you personally identify with the idea of being self-aware and fucked up? What made you want to come and be a part of this podcast?
I think, because I think a lot of the failures in my life have happened because I'm self-aware. I go into a job that I'm underqualified for, and I knew I was underqualified for that human services job. And so I allowed myself to fall into the traps that were set for me. I spend so much time analyzing whether what I'm saying or doing is the correct approach that I let other areas of my life sacrifice for it. And and we're not even getting into this right now, but like some of my personal beliefs on like religion and politics and stuff like that, I mean, they're not radical like Antifa, but they're so radically different than most people in society that I have a hard trouble making friends because I'm afraid to even bring up those topics. Because I'm afraid that as soon as I mention those topics and that happens, that they're going to leave. Because as soon as I'm kind of back now, but when I was in high school, I had a radical leaving of the church with what happened with me and the extremism there. And every friend I had who had been my friend since the first grade, as soon as they realized that I was declaring myself not to be Christian, they all walked away. Mm-hmm. And so it became a taboo topic in which I avoided at all costs with anybody for any reason. And it's like, and now I'm standing here as an adult, just turned 40 a few days ago, and the only friend I've got is a 30-year-old British guy in England. And I don't know how to make friends anymore. Like I've tried at a couple of shops handing out my phone number or asking people to go things. And so the biggest round of depression that I have is what if my husband dies, and who do I have? I don't have any family. I don't have any, or what if we got divorced, and his family goes with him and something happened like that, then I'm literally just standing here with nobody but my daughter and looking around and there's nobody here. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what to do about it. I don't know what the step is. I don't know. Every time I try to make friends, it just doesn't happen. And I don't know what to do about it. And I just, that's kind of where I'm at right now with I'm self-aware that I'm lonely. I'm self-aware that I need to find some more attachments outside of my family, but I didn't have the means to know how to do it.
Yeah. Have you ever gone to therapy or saw a life coach to kind of help with some of this?
Therapy was kind of ruined for me. It's actually one of my traumas, in that because we were in foster care and because of all that stuff and the medications that they had, I was in therapy throughout my entire childhood. Mm-hmm. Because the state paid for it, because, we were adopted in foster care and all that stuff. But I learned very quickly that my therapist was just a mouthpiece to my parents. Mm-hmm. And that anything we did said in therapy would immediately get told to my parents, and I would spend the rest of the day or the rest of the weeks grounded in being yelled at on the way home for anything that was said, because I was a minor and because my parents thought I was sex obsessed, which was ridiculous. I mean, like some of the things that they came up with that I supposedly did were just baffle your mind. Like, the therapists were the evil people. They're the ones that were destroying my life, throwing me on medications. I mean, there was at one point that the medications they had me on basically turned me into a zombie, and my boyfriend was begging me to stop taking it, that I wasn't me. And the exact second I decided to stop taking it, I was thrown into a mental health institute. And I'm sitting here in a room full of people that are saying that they wanted to kill themselves, or they tried to kill somebody else. And I'm sitting here going, I didn't want to take my medication because it didn't make me feel good. And then they're claiming that's part of my psychosis. And it didn't matter what I said. It didn't matter if I told the truth. It came to the point where I had to censor anything and everything I said to anybody that was in a therapist or counselor role, because the fear that it would go back to my parents was more extreme, was worse than attempting to actually get me help. Yeah. And so, that's part of my trauma. So I probably need to, but that's something I need to work on there.
Yeah, I would definitely say that's something for you to consider. I think you said you just turned 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that I'm 43, and in the era in which you were going to therapy as a kid with foster care in the 90s, that was a different time. in therapy and what therapy looked like. I mean, there is so different. Like I'm a licensed professional therapist, and I work with a lot of clients that have gone through experiences like you've gone through. And, the world, I would say the counseling world changed tremendously around 2007, honestly, is when a lot changed for counseling and therapy and all of that. So, I don't want to discredit the childhood trauma that you experienced, but I do want to, just bring awareness to a lot of what you're dealing with.
To report to now.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that part, I'm not saying not all therapists aren't ethical therapists. There are bad therapists out there. Some of them fucking suck, but it's about finding the right fit. And I think, a lot of those fears and things that you dealt with are things that working with, a new age therapist could definitely help you with. So something.
I did go once. There was one day, it was about 3 years into our marriage, in which I got up and I saw that there was a bunch of trash in the backyard. And I swear I had told my husband to do it. He said he was going to do it and he hadn't done it. And I was in the living room, and somehow I went from he didn't get all the trash out of the backyard to he doesn't love me. Why did he even marry me? He was just, no girl wanted to date him, and he only married me because he wanted a kid. And now that he's got a kid, that he doesn't want anything to do with me. In like a 10-minute spiral, I went from the trash to, and I was sitting there and I just sit there and I went, whoa, like I got so deep, so fast, so quick. I was like, something's wrong. Like,
yeah.
I need to go see somebody. And, we went and saw somebody for a few sessions, which was all our health insurance would cover. But I think it was enough for me to realize how extreme I went and how fast I went, with like those abandonment issues. You know what I mean? Like,
I get it. I've been in your shoes. I have attachment issues. I was not raised by my parents. I was raised by my paternal great grandmother and my aunt. And so I have a lot of attachment issues and things that I had to work through in therapy. So I definitely get it. And that's why I say, that's why I asked about it, because a lot of even what you were explaining about, the friends and not having those connections, all of those things are things that work through. And again, if you don't really, feel comfortable working with a therapist, there are also life coaches out there that kind of can help navigate you through some of those things. So, just something to consider for sure.
Oh, yeah, it is. Money's the issue now.
I mean, a lot of if your husband has health insurance, a lot of the health insurances will cover certain things. So just look into it. I just don't want you to downplay it and not, maybe explore what's available. Even if your husband has EAP through his job, like they usually will cover a couple of sessions. So just, something to think about.
Look into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want you to share with the audience how they can connect with you. And if you don't mind telling them a little bit about your film journey before we wrap up.
Okay. Well, it's really funny. I actually just posted a video on Instagram about it with, one night, me and my husband, we had a few drinks and we were scrolling through Instagram. And you know how it is when you find somebody new and you watch their video on loop a few times and you like it, that oh, you like this new person. Let's keep showing you all these videos. And it was this guy who, he cleans hoarded houses, and like, he's hysterical. Like he finds the humor in like the most disgusting of places. And me and my husband were talking, going, has there ever been a horror movie about a hoarded house? And we started looking into it, and there hasn't. There's never been a movie made about a hoarded house. It's like a taboo subject. And I started, thinking about it and thinking on it. And I was like, well, I mean, if you want to be a C-rated horror movie, you just throw some high school kids in there and have the house kill them or have somebody inside the house. But if you want to make it sophisticated, how do you make the house a surprise? And it's like, well, what if you hid it behind something? And then I came to like the hedge and like this huge groving that just covered this house so that nobody knew that it was in there. And then I was like, well, I want to do something that's a little different. And me and my husband actually had a lot of arguments about this because he's a horror fanatic. If it's a movie, he's watching. In fact, he's even thinking about writing a series called Reviews from a Horror Movie Addict. And I was like, I want this to be grounded in realism. That's my problem with horror movies a lot of times, is it's not scary because it's not real. It can't really happen. And so I was like, well, what if this house is just like has so many OSHA violations and it's just so bad that anybody who goes into this house dies, and it just the house kills it. I mean, there's no ghost, there's no nothing. It's just the house is so dilapidated, it's so gross that it just kills anybody that walks into it. And I don't know. I've always told myself that writing was something I was bad at. Like even on my ACT, I scored a 22 on the ACT, but I scored a 14 in English grammar and punctuation on that section. And I just sat down and started writing, and it just happened. I had 58 pages. And then, I argued with my husband about it for a bit, and I wasn't going to finish it. And he pushed me. He got mad at me. Like he's never been mad at me. And he got really mad at me because I wasn't going to finish it. And so I finished it. And then I did some Google searches on what film scripts look like and how to do them. And I just randomly submitted them to some film festival contests, and it won like 5 or 6 of them.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know. I don't know what to do if this is the path that I'm going on now. I'm holding out hope, so I'll get my job at the IRS. But every day that gets dashed a little more as you see more news about them wanting to get rid of the IRS completely, because the job's mine. As soon as they're hiring again, I've been promised that I have my job back. And so I'm playing the waiting game right now. And it's, I don't know. So, we'll see.
Thank you for sharing that. How can people connect with you?
Oh, that was a question. Yeah. Angle of Reason on Twitch, Instagram. I have a TikTok technically, but I think I've only put like 2 videos on it and I don't really use it. Or you can find me just Lacey Desper on Facebook. It's public profile. Or on LinkedIn as well. It's there. But I'm most active on Facebook and Instagram, and every once in a while Twitch.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that. And also thank you for your time today. I really enjoyed learning a little bit more about your story. Guys, please make sure that you connect with Lacey. The information of how you can connect with her will be in the description of this episode. Also, be sure to follow me, Tree the LPC, on all social media platforms under the handle Tree the LPC. Until next time, be safe, be well, and make sure that you take care of your mental health.
I'm a bit self-aware. Sometimes it's fucked up, but life is gonna lie. So I ain't gonna slow up. I'm on a mission to change the face of mental health. Kicking knowledge to my people, cause you know that health is wealth. It's your lucky